Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Center for Building Resilient Communities. Today, we start a four-part series which looks at planning, preparing, and implementing online meetings. Over the past few weeks, we have received numerous requests for guidelines on successfully planning, preparing, and implementing online meetings as a result of the inflation in remote working due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we decided to put together a four-part series that looks at and provide some input and insight into effectively planning, preparing, and implementing online meetings. So for today, I am your moderator, Shana Alexander Benjamin, co-founder and co-CEO for the Center for Building Resilient Communities, and I will be moderating part one in this series. In subsequent series, we will have other guests come on to discuss, certain aspects of meetings with us. So, for those of you all who are familiar with me, thank you and welcome. For those of you all who are seeing and hearing me for the first time, I would like to share a bit about myself. And to do that, I will actually go straight into our presentation for this evening. So I'm going to share my screen here with you all. So just take a minute to get that screen up and running so that it will be seen by all. Okay, good. So this is, as I said, online meetings, planning, preparation, and implementing. So it's part one of four. So this is a bit of about who I am. I'll just do a summary. My name is Shana Alexander Benjamin. As said before, I am a human and social development practitioner, thriving survivor and advocate with over 12 years of experience in the areas of conflict transformation, peace building, social protection, and women, peace and security. I'm pursuing my academic studies in social work and research um, because I would like to continue working in restoring human dignity, tell stories, and advance social protection and sustainable development. It's because we realize, even with this COVID-19 pandemic, that we need more and more and more social workers on the ground in different spheres, working in public policy and everything. Okay, so meetings. The Center for Building Resilient Communities will like to credit Diplo Foundation and their team because they have been a tremendous support and one of the main source of information for this series. At the end of this presentation, a link to their website will be set up. You will see a link to their website. There you can go to their website and they have a wealth of knowledge and information about diplomacy, governance, online participation in different types of meetings, and so forth. So you can look at their website for that. Now, we are social species. We love to connect. We love to interact. We love to socialize. We love to entertain and be entertained. And, physically connecting and meeting with each other is hardwired in our survival, genetic, and cultural codes. From time immemorial, people have been meeting to socialize. to discuss important issues and make decisions. In essence, the function for meetings has not changed for centuries. Meetings are omnipresent in our daily reality. However, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is an inflation in online meetings due to physical distancing and other hygienic practices which have been put in place to slow the spread of the virus. So physical distancing prevents us from meeting in person to engage in different types of meetings. So online meetings are nothing new. This was an increasing trend pre-COVID-19. However, COVID-19 has contributed to an inflation in online meetings. This inflation undoubtedly is contributing to meeting fatigue. I can testify of this. Every day I hear my colleagues speak about the number of online meetings they have to attend, and some of our meetings clash, placing many of us in an uncomfortable position of having to choose between meetings. And I'll tell you a secret. Um, I've seen fellow colleagues and so forth follow this pattern where they go into a meeting and they have two mobile devices. So they literally log into those meetings that are clashing at the same time. Now, this may sound as something not acceptable, but something an alternative to find themselves present in two places at the same time. However, there are great disadvantages and drawbacks to something like that because you are unable to fully be present and participate effectively in any one of the meetings, and then you may lose out on important items and issues and discussions that and conversations that emerge from either one of the meetings. So the online meetings now with the inflation is actually causing a lot of disruption, not just emotionally, but psychologically. Because as I said before, there is the online meeting fatigue. Then there is also what is being termed now online negotiation, where you have individuals from different organizations who have to meet. However, they now have to negotiate which platforms that would be acceptable for them to come to a common ground to meet in those spaces, because one organization may not agree with using a particular technology or platform and another organization may not agree. So is these online negotiations are happening now in terms of meeting and coming together to discuss important issues within organizations and society. So the other thing with the inflation in online meetings is that companies and individuals are finding it challenging to conduct successful meetings which keep participants engaged. So because there is not that face-to-face experience where you are able to see exactly who is in the room and what they're doing, and then there's a certain type of culture within that face-to-face environment. When that person is working remotely or e-participating, you are not certain if that person is really engaged or if they just log into the meeting and then they're about in their own space doing their own thing, right? So that is another challenge that persons are speaking about, is keeping the participants engaged. There is also the aspect of inclusion for persons with various disabilities. And the serious issue of security. is a priority concern for many organizing and many organizing individuals, persons who are organizing meetings. The security is an issue, a high priority, and also the issue of how to effectively moderate online meetings. So there has been a growing trend and push for online meetings pre-COVID-19, which was compelled by practical considerations, including cost, environmental concerns, so that's two, and many other considerations, practical considerations. So we have online meetings actually reduce CO2 emissions by reducing the need for travel. Okay, and there are so many things that we must really take into consideration when we're planning online meetings for that successful take home. Now, planning for a successful meeting takes time, human resource, and money. No matter how small your meeting is going to be, that meeting will call for some type of finances to be invested in its execution and implementation. So there is some type of cost attached to your meeting, right? In part of this series, we will look at planning, preparation and implementing of meetings with specific focus now is for online meetings, as I said before. So the thing is, anyone anyone can go online and start a meeting. Anyone can jump on Skype, Webex. Anyone can jump and do a live stream um, to host a meeting. However, However, it has been stated that all you need is just 1 hour or even less to start a Zoom, Webex, GoToMeeting, or Skype meeting for the first time. However, you need at least 1 month to gather the skills and knowledge to conduct a successful online meeting. So, some of the critical questions to be asked, or you should ask yourself when planning for an online meeting and preparing for the same are: what principles should guide the organization and running of the online meetings? What type of security measures are available and can be implemented? Which psychological and emotional factors do we need to consider when organizing an online meeting? How can online meetings support inclusion, in particular of people with disabilities? And how do you keep all participants engaged? What type of moderation skills are needed? So these are some of the areas to be covered during this four-part series, including what is needed to develop the organizational behavioral, and cultural skills to deliver effective online meetings. Okay, so you would see this slide and you're seeing some percentages and so forth. Um, because despite the importance and omnipresence of meetings in our lives, our experience with meetings is mixed, and everyone will have a different experience when it comes to meetings. So, when considering the move from face to face to online meetings, we should not forget that meetings are often inefficient and have other drawbacks. So, have you ever been to a meeting and You sat there for 2 hours, you listened, you participated to some extent, and at the end of it, you're like, oh, I've wasted 2 hours or half of my day in this place. I could have gotten so many other things done. I know that I have. Okay, I have. And those are some of that is one of the common statements you would hear people mention about meetings. So one estimate suggests that 67% of online meetings are considered unproductive. An article in the Harvard Business Review revealed that 65% of surveyed senior managers found that meetings kept them from completing their own work. Imagine that. Research done in 2015 estimated that up to US $213 billion was lost due to unsuccessful meetings annually. And that cost is probably increased in 2020. Okay, while 71% of respondents from the Harvard Business Review study perceived meetings as unproductive and inefficient. So, as we move meetings more and more online, we have an awesome opportunity to try to improve the structure of meetings to be more focused and productive, as well as more inclusive, because we have to consider everyone and make space for the unheard voices. So, in this session, we will be covering the purpose of your meeting, types of meetings, your audience, your participants, as some people say, your meeting composition, the size of your meeting, mode of meetings, length of meetings, and frequency of meetings. These are just some of the items and the areas that you need to cover when you're planning your meeting. It's not just, hey, you know what, tomorrow we're going to meet at the cafe or we're going to meet online. Here is the link. No, there ought to be a structure and also developing an organizational behavior and culture when it comes to online meetings. Okay, so purpose. We have heard about purpose many times in our lives. And a lot of times people ask you, what is your purpose? What are you here for? Why are you on earth? And all these other things. So one of the first items on the list when planning a meeting is purpose. And there comes the why. Why is this meeting necessary? The why will bring out certain aspects of the purpose. And then you can fine tune to get to the real purpose of the meeting with your team, because you never plan a meeting alone. You collaborate, you come together, because when different minds come together, you have that collective intelligence in the room to bring and diverse working and different cultures in that room to bring out the richness of what you're discussing and what you plan to do. Okay. What are the issues to be discussed or decisions taken? So these are some of the things that will bring out your purpose. Why are you inviting people to come together? The purpose of the meeting will inform how the meeting is planned, what type of preparation is required, and how the meeting will be implemented. Okay, so meetings ought to promote inclusion, and I cannot stress that enough. Meetings ought to promote inclusion, providing spaces for unheard voices. To reduce this type of one-way communication, creating a participatory approach to dialogue. So you have that, not that top-down approach, but a collaborative, inclusive, participatory type of culture that you're building. So every person who is given the opportunity and they can feel comfortable enough to embrace that opportunity to let their voice be heard in that meeting. So your meetings ought to build community. Who is in the room and from where? So many times we attend meetings and more so now online that you are not aware who is online, who is the other person probably in a breakout room, who is the other 75 persons on a call, right? So if meetings ought to provide space to build community. Get to know who is in the room, from which countries, from which, organizations, who they're representing, what languages are in the room, and even persons with various disabilities. Who are they? Make them visible in the room because this is their right to be visible. So we're still here on our purpose. So the purpose of meetings can range from sharing information to debate or making decisions. So meetings which aim to simply share information always face the challenge of providing unique inputs. I'll say that again. Meetings which aim to simply share information always face the challenge of providing unique input. Given that so much information is already available on the web or in the media, so persons can have information now at the snap of their fingers. However, value can be added when the authority, position, knowledge, or skill of the person delivering the information strengthens its legitimacy, or when the meeting can provide additional clarifications related to specific information. So, most meetings involve deliberation or debate, ranging from discussing projects or brainstorming and forecasting. The more a meeting aims for decision making, the more it requires clear procedures, especially if decisions require voting. So, now we look at types of meetings. So, what type of meeting are you planning? Is it a decision making meeting, team building, or collective intelligence meeting to drive innovation? So, you bring different minds together to create, to innovate, to enhance, to assess. Is the meeting to provide a status update about a specific event or situation? During this time, we can all identify with the daily updates from the World Health Organization and the CDC and other governments across the globe who give their daily status update um, regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. And we realize even though there's a lot of information about COVID in the media and online, the authorities who bring the information, they add more value when you're doing status updates or information sharing. And also in those authorities, they bring clarification to certain questions people may have about what is happening, what is occurring, and what is impacting their lives. So you have to identify the type of meeting that you are planning, and your type of meeting will enable you to understand, that meeting composition. So, who needs to attend the meeting? So, you're looking at that meeting composition aspect of planning your meetings. Um, The composition of the meeting is another critical area which must be factored in. So, who are the people that are required to attend your meeting? Who are the people that want to attend your meeting? Who are the people that would be invited to participate? So why are you sending out invitations for this specific group or this specific audience, or constituents to attend your meeting? And who are the people that you would like to participate? Who are the people that need to attend your meeting? Okay, so there are times that, in the development world, you have donors and community leaders and so forth planning meetings, and even government, because government is a stakeholder in development. However, they leave out so many different key people and constituents who should be sitting at those tables, and be involved in that meeting. So even in your meeting and your planning process for your meeting, you need to strategize and also look at who should be in the meeting and who are you inviting and why, and who is not on that meeting list to form your composition for your meeting, but who needs to be there. So those are some of the things that you need to look at when you're planning the composition of your meeting. All right. Now we have some key things to just highlight when we're dealing about composition of meetings. So meeting composition varies, right, from closed groups of collaborators working on the same project, and these are people who actually know each other, right? And they know each other well because they have worked, previously, or they're continually working on a program or a project. So when they come together, it's not new faces that they're seeing, is same, faces. And it can range, meeting compositions can range from these closed group, meetings for collaboration to mega meetings where participants meet for the very first time. So differences in meeting composition determine the way these gatherings are organized and run. Because when you understand the composition for your meeting and the type of meeting, then you're able now to structure how this meeting will run for its duration. So, and just give some examples here. When groups that cooperate closely and they have a high level of trust and they share knowledge and language when they meet, the need for moderation is simplified. Okay, because everybody already understand, to some extent, who is in the room, and that they have developed some type of working culture. So the moderation is basically simplified in that aspect. In such meetings, participants dive right in to the subject of meeting and they begin, deliberation. On the other hand, mega meetings where people meet for the first time in massive numbers of participants, the first time they lack all the previously mentioned features that I mentioned, where when groups come together and you already know who is in the room. So in this case, moderation must skillfully seek a common denominator for sometimes thousands of participants. So the type of moderation skills needed for a mega size meeting will be completely different to the type of moderation skills needed for a collaborative closed group of people who have known each other for a very long time. So all meetings fall somewhere in between these two extremes, right? In subsequent presentations, we will discuss the range of moderation skills needed as we continue with this series. So, size. Size matters. especially when it comes to meetings, right? So meetings can range from a handful of participants and attendees to thousands of participants. Meeting size has a strong relationship with the level of interactivity that takes place among and within the participants. Small meetings are those with up to, let's say, 20 people. So let's say, example, a team planning meeting, board of directors meeting. If we go a bit further, we can talk about a UN Security Council meetings, right? So medium meetings are those with up to 100 people. Example, meetings where 2 or 3 departments, including staff and supervisors, come together. Um, if we go again up, we can look at the UN councils and the governing bodies. Those meetings have up to 100 delegations, supervisors, and 100 delegations. So the size of meetings, as I said earlier, will determine and has a strong relationship to the interactivity within the group. And large meetings are those that gather more than 1,000 participants. Example, forums and conferences. So you look at multinational company events. Large meetings include, let's say, the complete UN membership, the business sector and civil society. The UN General Assembly gathers all member states and thousands of delegates. So that's like a large, meeting based on size. So an example of large meetings also in most issue areas is like internet governance, migration, trade, some of those types of meetings. Now, the size of the meeting will affect the effectiveness of the moderation, and it will impact the maintenance of stable interpersonal relationships within the group. So the larger the meeting is, the more skilled and knowledge in moderation. And sometimes you may need more than one moderators to moderate during such large meetings. So most expert meetings are the medium size, are between that medium size range of 20 to 148. Some go to 150 participants. And we have stated 148 to 150 as the upper limit for an effective medium-sized meeting, as this number is the Dunbar number, and it signifies the number of stable social relationships, right, that an individual can have. Within this range, so effective moderation can allow participants to voice their opinions and collectively develop arguments. So within that range, you look at the Dunbar thesis, which has been, researched and researched over and over, and it shows that stable relationships within any groupings, right? Beyond 150, 148, 150, it will be challenging to maintain stable relationships among that group where every person is able to deliberate and, develop their arguments in a clear, concise manner and so forth. So above the 148, 150 barrier, you will move to a new set of moderation challenges, as effective interaction within a single plenary group will no longer be possible to facilitate. And thereby, what you will have to do is develop parallel sessions, breakout rooms, and other specific techniques are needed. So I'll just give this example. Every year, around March, the UN hosts the commission, their session on the Commission of the Status of Women. Now, this meeting brings thousands and thousands of individuals from across the globe. Now, it is entirely impossible for the UN to host and moderate a meeting with thousands and thousands of participants in one room. And hence, you would always see during March, the Commission on the Status of Women will have hundreds of parallel events. It will have many closed door and closed group events to be able to facilitate and maintain those relationships so that persons can develop their arguments and participate effectively during the process of the meeting. So, 148, and as I said, some people push it to 150. So in that space, the internal and expert meetings, this and the experts suggest that you have a high level of interaction and interpersonal relationship building and the maintenance of those types of relationship. You go to the medium range where you move beyond 148, 150, the interactive, relationship and social building. There would be some challenges, but then there's a possibility of maintaining still, that level of interactivity. So that's medium. And then you move now to bigger conferences, thousands of people. The interactivity is very, very low. Okay, so our mode of meeting. So meetings can be conducted using the following modes. Our traditional meeting face to face, as you would see in the center of this diagram. So the traditional meetings have been held like face to face, and today, due to COVID-19, most meetings are being held online. We have the blended approach, and it has been used when some people meet in person in particular location while others join remotely via e-participation. So for example, we have the World Health Organization daily briefings, and in your country, your government, your Minister of Health, your Prime Minister, your President, maybe also doing those daily briefings on the status of what is happening, occurring as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic in your particular country. Now, those are blended meetings because you have some participants are in the direct location and they are face to face, even though they have their distancing, physical distancing within that physical space, but they are there physically. And then you have some individuals participating online. So you have that e-participation. So like journalists who are in different countries or journalists who may be in the same country are logging on to ask questions of the World Health, organization officials, or it may be your Minister of Health in your country or your Prime Minister or President. So those are that's an example of the blended meetings, where some are in that local and others join remotely. Then you have the full online, which includes sometimes blended meetings, which use organized e-participation, teleconferences, remote hubs, ad hoc e-participation, and so forth. And that ad hoc e-participation is that someone can be in their living room, someone can be under a tree, someone can be in their vehicle, and they're e-participating in an online forum, conference, meeting, training, so that is those mode of meeting. So understanding what mode that you would use for your meeting is critical, because it would also help with developing that structure for your meeting and then incorporating certain tools to keep your participants engaged. So this illustration summarizes the different types of meetings, starting with the traditional meetings. In the center, for example, a UN conference via blended meetings, which use organized e-participation, where small groups of participants meet locally in specialized teleconferencing rooms to join on-site meetings, right? And ad hoc or e-participation in various meetings, example from our homes, as I said earlier, offices using Skype, Zoom, Webex, and other tools. So each of these three ways of meeting and interacting requires different technologies, organization, and behavioral management. All right. So another factor in planning your meetings is the length of your meeting. 60 minutes, 40 minutes, 90 minutes, 120 minutes. When it comes to the length of your meetings, you have two aspects. First, the length of the individual meeting session normally should not exceed 90 minutes. The reason for this guideline relates to the attention span of humans, and we will discuss this in future parts of this series, right? And the second, we need to consider the length of the entire event. So conference and expert meetings and summits. Typically, most conferences last 2 to 3 days. Example, within the UN system, annual plenary sessions of international organizations such as the World Health Organization, International Labour Organization, and the World Meteorological Organization last 2 to 4 weeks. So it's not just understanding or planning the length in terms of minutes, but the length in terms of if your meeting is a one-time meeting, if it's for 2 days or 3 days. So those aspects must be considered. So online support for these types of meetings will be a significant challenge, both in terms of sustaining, both in terms of sustaining online interaction over such a long period of time and ensuring procedural support, right? So we look now at the frequency of your meeting. Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it a one-time event? Is it annual? Is it a quarterly? Is it a bi-monthly meeting? How often will you be meeting? So when it comes to the frequency of meetings, one ought to consider how often the meeting is to occur. As I said, is it a daily meeting? Is it a weekly team meeting? The frequency of the meeting will inform how the meeting is planned, where the meeting is conducted, who moderates the meeting, and the mode of the meeting. So there we come to our end. And we encourage you to email your questions, your comments, your inquiries to us at cbrccollective@gmail.com. cbrccollective@gmail.com. So we look forward for your comments. We look forward for your questions. We look forward for your inquiries. If you have anything to add to this first part, we look forward for that also. So, what are some of our takeaways from this first part? The current crisis is not the only reason to move meetings online. There has been a growing trend in this direction, compelled by practical considerations, including cost and environmental concerns. Online meetings reduce CO2 emissions by reducing the need for travel. The purpose of the meeting informs and guides the effective planning for other relevant aspects of the meeting, such as type of meeting, participants, meeting composition, size, mode, length, and frequency. Planning, preparing, and implementing of online meetings calls for time, skills, and knowledge. So, understanding the context of your meeting matters, and inclusion matters, size matters. And even though there are a lot of free platforms, cost matters, because with the free technologies, you are limited because there's so much you can do with those basic free packages and the different technologies and apps online to do video conferencing and training and so forth. And the other takeaway is you can participate in an online meeting anywhere from your living room, bedroom, home office, or even on your porch. Yes, you need 1 hour or even less to start a Zoom or Skype meeting for the first time. However, you need at least 1 month to gather the skills and knowledge to conduct a successful online meeting. And another thing I had to mention during the lead up to the information for this session is persons are finding it more challenging working online. And this is due to a variety of factors. One of the factors is that noise pollution, so that persons may be living in an apartment building or different types of complex, and they are accustomed, their reality before COVID was getting prepared on mornings, get to work, and you're in an environment that has a reduction in noise. You can go to an office, close the door, join a meeting. Now, when you are home, there is different noise levels coming from, be it neighbors, be it even from other members from within the home, because we have, children at home now, away from school. And those are some things that persons who are hosting meetings must take into consideration, and also understanding those online etiquette in attending meetings online. Another thing that we have come across, and persons have reached out to us to find out, well, how can we, make our space conducive to participate if I have to present and so forth. And probably I'm living in a one bedroom apartment, or a studio apartment, and I'm there with my two children. What if I share in a room? How can I make my space, you know, physically attractive to someone who would be looking? And those are some challenges that many people are experiencing online. And as we move forward in this series, we will be having conversations with individuals who can share expert knowledge on how you can transform a room by putting up painting or putting a blind, so how can you transform, even if it's your dorm room, right? How can you transform that room into a visually appealing space so that when persons look, they can actually see a nice, appealing, have a nice visual. And then the other aspect is security. How do I protect myself when I have to present? Some people sit in their kitchen, in their living room, and then behind them you can see a lot of their personal items. So, those are things that we will discuss. How do you protect yourself um, while you are presenting or you are called upon to share, right? So those are some of the thoughts that just came back to me, and I thought to bring that in closing here. So these are, our takeaways. And as we said, we love to hear from you. cbrccollective@gmail.com. So in our next session, we will look at organization aspects of online meetings, so success factors for online meetings, time and timing, cost, security, commitment, psychology, and emotions in online meetings. So book your seat for the next session, and we will post on our Facebook page and also on our website when the next session for part two of this four-part series will be conducted. As promised, Diplo Foundation, www.diplomacy.edu. Wonderful group of people. When you connect with them, you will never see things the same again. So this has been Shona Alexander Benjamin, co-founder of the Center for Building Resilient Communities, and I'm serving as a co-CEO. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching and participating in our four-part series of online meetings, planning, preparation, and implementation. Until next time, remember that we are about collective liberation and healing. So join us and let's heal and liberate collectively. Thank you.